Riba is the Arabic word for ribit, which is in the Torah, and that's the act of renting money. You go to a riba banker and you tell him or her that you want some money. They will think of money as a commodity or an item to be rented, and the rental rate of this money is called interest. And this has been prohibited by all Abrahamic faith, that is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It was prohibited in the Torah, in the Bible, and in the Holy Quran. La riba means la, which is no, riba, which is no interest. And la riba is a movement that we hope will catch on, not only amongst the Muslims, but amongst all people of all faith, in Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And it is a movement that looks at money as a tool, as a measuring device, not as something to be rented. So when you go to a la riba or no riba banker and you want to buy a car, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a business, then he or she don't look at money as a commodity to be rented, but they look at the economic viability of buying the house, buying the car, or buying the business. Then people thinking this way will think more in economic terms, not just in dollars and cents, more living within their means or below their means, and not just living it up on credit cards and on credit because it's just money. And unfortunately, many people have been conditioned to love, to hate, unfortunately to kill, unfortunately to maim for just this piece of paper called money. We want to reduce that thinking in terms of money to think more in terms of living comfortably, satisfactorily within your means or below your means. And if you want to increase the level at which you live and enjoy, you need to work harder and produce more income, and this way you can make a better contribution to the community and make it more prosperous, generate more job opportunities, and so on and so forth. La riba is unique in the sense that it is community owned. It is owned by the American community, and it is operating in 32 states of the Union so far, and we aspire to make them at least 39 states. What's unique about it is that we didn't go hat in hand looking for money from the rich and the affluent, be it in the United States or overseas, but we relied on our own resources, and we are very thankful to God for this gift that He has given us, the gift of success. When La Riba started, we relied on people of the middle class who really had this dream of having a community-owned company that does not charge or receive interest, and we have achieved our success. We are also unique in the fact that we put our money where our mouth is, and that creates a lot of responsibility and a lot of credibility for our company. We are also unique in the fact that we have been serving not only Muslims but people of all faiths. What we're trying to do, we're trying to make it really a system that can be franchised. So every little community next to every mosque or masjid, every church, every synagogue, every Buddhist temple will be benefiting from that small unit. The neat thing about this is that the person who is providing spiritual values, who knows the community inside out, will not only be providing spirituality, guidance, and advice, but also will be providing an important dimension of the credit decision making in a credit committee. That will provide more responsibility, more stature, and more importance to the faith-based financing movement that is pioneered in the United States and hopefully will be catching on everywhere in the world. You see, the foundation of successful financing is a very simple rule. Know your client. And the only way to know the client is through knowing him or her, his or her family, children, connections, behavior, and you only can know this through the community that you live in. not on a piece of paper where you report what your income is and what you have done. When we meet the client, we tell the client that our aim is to get you out of any financial commitments as fast as possible. You know, when you look at a conventional bank, they would like to have a good client for 30 years, 40 years, because you can make interest on that client for as long as you want. But that's not our intention. Our intention is to create economic activity, not interest income. Why? Because if you pay off your home in 7 years, and we tell our clients, you can pay it in 7 years, pay it in 7 years, despite the fact it doesn't produce a lot of profit for American Finance House Lariba. So why do I pay it for 7 years? Because you will have a lot of cash, extra cash that you can use to invest somewhere else. Then it can be better for you and your family. You realize that the average holdership of a mortgage in America is 6 to 7 years. And do you know, if you have a mortgage, it takes you 7 years of paying interest up front until you start making a dent in the principal. What does it mean? It means that the minute you move to a bigger house and change your mortgage, the minute you change your mortgage because the interest rates went down, that means you start all over again paying interest, and you don't make a dent in the principal. So you will be indebted for the rest of your life. That is not what we want. We want the community member to pay off their financial obligations as fast as possible. So that's why the community is very happy with us. We're very understanding because they deal with community members. We talk to them on the phone. We make them feel that they are an investment, not just borrowers of money and people that they are suspected to take the money and run away with it, and so on and so forth. The other thing is we insist on decoupling thinking in interest rate that has prevailed the world for 600 years. So a typical client would call us and say, well, please, seriously, tell me, how much is the monthly payment? We tell him, Mr. Client, we really don't think this way. We have to mark everything to the market. So what do you mean? So we go and test the market, the price of this house, test how much this house would lease for, test how much this car will lease for, and how much this equipment will lease for, and then come back to us. And then we can decide on the monthly payments based on our market survey. We think we have the most viable model that fits the Islamic Sharia that has ever been offered in home financing and automobile financing. We have analyzed other models very thoroughly, and we can stand up before Almighty God while praying the 5 prayers a day, while making a supplication to Him, while praying Jum'ah, very comfort, peace of mind and peace of heart, that this is the spirit and the intent and the requirement of the Islamic law. It is not the mechanics, my dear brothers and sisters. It is the intent. It is changing the lives of the people. It's changing the thinking of the people. It is serving the people. It's improving the conditions of the people. It is opening different opportunities to different people. That is what Islamic banking, Lariba financing is all about. And I hope we'll be successful in doing it. Believe me, the intention of American Finance House really and truly is to get rid of riba in the life of each and every Muslim in the Muslim community, and hopefully each and every American that needs financing. Because we do not look at how rich and how famous you are to finance you. We look at who you are, what's your potential, what's your future, and we invest in that and we make a difference in that. This is our goal and this is our mission, to get riba out of your life. My vision for the future is very, very bright, very rosy, because I think the demand for our services will not only come from the Muslim communities, but from many, many other communities, including the first generation Americans. Why? The first generation American Muslims and the young men and women in America at large are becoming very sophisticated. Everybody has got a computer on his top or on his desk, and very soon in his or her palm. And they can figure out what the interest rates are, what the services are, And it will all boil down to the same numbers, believe me. What's going to make a difference is the final touch, the touch of caring of the Lariba banker, the Lariba financier. And that's the person when you go to and tell him, I want to have $50,000, he will not encourage you to take 70 because you can afford making the payment with 70. He will first ask you, what do you want it for? And he will make sure, or she will make sure, the Lariba banker, that what you want to do makes economic sense and is viable, because that is the requirement of the system. It's not just money exchanging hands for a price called interest. It is the responsibility of making sure that this money is invested properly. Because if you don't, then you are violating part of your worshipping God or ibadah. Exactly like not praying and not doing Hajj and not doing Zakah. Because that is a responsibility. And this actually is taken seriously. When that message is out, it is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The whole community will come to you because they know that you are interested in them, in their families and their households. So I think this is going to catch on like fire in America in about 15 to 20 years. I think that every conventional bank in America will have a window called the Lariba window, offering Lariba products. That's my vision of America. And my vision of the Lariba system that we're trying to build here in America is that very soon we're going to have a Lariba-run institution, maybe in Asia, in Central Asia, in Europe, and in every corner of the world. The idea is not just to own the world. The idea is to offer the same quality and policy and vision and strategy and philosophy of serving the community. Not just being a graduate with an MBA or a person who graduated from the Navy and went to the banking school, then you are a banker. No, no, no. It is the spirit of serving people, because that is how you hire your people that work to serve people. So that's the vision we want to see. It's not just owning all of these banks. It is what I call a strategic alliance. You know, Lufthansa and United and Singapore Airlines and Scandinavian Airline System and Air Canada, you know, have something called the Star Alliance. What I would like to do, I'd like to do the Crescent Alliance of Lariba banks, where we can exchange information, systems and procedures and ways and means of serving the client, and we can integrate our markets to serve the clients better throughout the world. And believe me, this is very much needed in the world. Community banking is a process which actually acts as an intermediary. The community bank or a community finance company acts as an intermediary between those who have been endowed with savings and assets and they don't know how to invest it properly, and others who have been endowed by good ideas, experience in making good projects that earn good productivity as measured in the return on investment. So that intermediary community finance company or bank would really study the projects and study the level of risk that each investor would like to have and match these together and produce jobs and job opportunities, good homes and good apartments. The profitability of what we're doing in homes is very, very slim. Very slim. And we intentionally make it very small because we do not want to hurt our community members claiming that this is the Islamic way or this is the proper way. And by the way, we never called our operation Islamic. We call it Lariba. And we let the community judge if we are good representatives of this great religion of Islam or not. If we are, we thank Almighty God for it. If we are not, we ask God to forgive us. And we ask the community to tell us how to correct ourselves. My vision of all of this is that the community at large will catch on. You start first with what I call the Puritans, the people that have been living in homes, in rented homes, in apartments for the last 20 years because they do not want to get into riba. community members that have accumulated 80% of a home price, believe it or not, and they're still sitting in apartments because they don't want to participate in riba. And when you offer them this service, they come on the surface, they show up, they come out of the closets. And we're impressed, we are fascinated, we are honored that we can fulfill their needs. And we're honored that they have held tight to their beliefs all these years. Now you start with the Puritans, and then when the word comes out, then the average community member will come and say, hey, you know, you people really serve the community. You people want to know us. You people are the people who care about us, would love to deal with you. A community riba financier or Islamic banker is a person who doesn't only have money, but a person who is willing to sacrifice his own time, his own life, his own belongings to make sure that the community lives better. It's not only a matter of how much money you make in terms of return on your investment. It is how many assets have you helped accumulate? How many households have you helped open up? How many people have you made their lives better? How many people have you touched not only their vision, their aspirations, their spirits, their hearts, but touched their pocket, their wallets? Because you can tell them anything you want, but at the end of the day they say, well, what difference did it make in my life? Am I eating better? Am I dressed better? Am I driving a better car? Am I enjoying better health care? And that is what a community banker, community financier should always be looking for. Actually, America was built on the basis of community banking. And there is a law on the banking books called the Community Reinvestment Act, CRA. But the question is this done today? I don't think so. I strongly believe that what built America is exactly the community, socially responsible banking services that started America and make it prosperous. Unfortunately, nowadays, through the mergers and acquisitions and making banks so large and humongous, you are nothing but a number in a bank teller's line. And that's essentially it. And because you don't know how the system works, you don't know how to get credit so you can improve your standard of living, you can grow your business, and you become more affluent. And this movement has to come back to America to strengthen America and make it grow into bigger and better orbits. The neat thing about doing it as a community effort is you inject in it a voluntary dimension. So you don't only hire employees, but you hire family members who volunteer in addition to getting a humble salary. And that injects this desire, the burning fire of working with the community, serving the community, opening up households for the community. And that's the neat thing about this operation. For instance, we opened up an office in New Jersey recently, and it's really wonderful because the same kind of parameters are being applied. The person who's running the office is a person who's very active in the Islamic school in New Jersey, and his assistant, and he's attracting all of these people who are willing to volunteer to rid people of thinking in terms of interest. The ultimate goal of riba-free banking is to make money available to everyone in this world. Our motto is credit is a human right. In other words, if I were to make a recommendation to the United Nations Covenant of Human Rights, I would suggest strongly to include in it that credit is a human right. It's amazing to see large banks dealing in billions of dollars, to see companies like Enron and WorldCom losing billions of dollars, companies like America Online losing $100 billion, which is equivalent to the gross national product of Egypt in 1 year. And poor farmers cannot have $100 to buy seeds. And poor fishermen cannot have $200 to buy a net so they can increase the efficiency of fishing. And poor people cannot have $50 to buy a knitting machine so they can make knitted jerseys and pullovers for their families. This is my ultimate hope and my ultimate goal, that we provide, number one, a means of transportation for every family at the grassroots level, a home for every family at the grassroots levels in America or anywhere in the world. Because if you do this, then the family will feel that they own a piece of the rock. And when they feel that they own a piece of the rock, then they will make sure that this is clean, well taken care of, and upgraded in value. And make sure that every family has its own small business so they can prosper and become independent. We are taught by our dear Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and prayers be upon him, that 90% of your real prosperity, income, and endowment comes from being an independent businessman or businesswoman. And he himself was an independent businessman. And that's exactly what we aspire for. When we do this, then what we do, we take the tide and raise everyone up in the standard of living, the standard of health care, the standard of social interaction. Because if people are happy, then you will have happy children, a happier future, more prosperity, and then more peace. And hopefully we can capture people's imagination to make this world a better world. If you leave $1,000 in a jar and leave it for 1 year, that $1,000 after 1 year will not be $2,000 because it does not reproduce. It will stay as $1,000. And it will also lose its purchasing power because of inflation. And at the same time, if you are a good Muslim, you should pay 2.5% zakah, or the act of purifying your income on it. That is 2.5%, and this $1,000 will shrink by that much. As a matter of fact, the system is designed such that money has to always circulate back in the community, invested back in the community to generate economic activity and business opportunities. And this is called, in the American banking laws, the Community Reinvestment Act, CRA, which requires all community banks to accumulate the savings of the community and invest it back in the community. And that is the spirit of Islamic banking. Now, there is a revelation in the Holy Quran which says, "And those who amass silver and gold and assets and properties and don't reinvest it back in the community," which is called investing it back in the way of Allah, of Almighty God, then give him the news. What is the news? They will be punished severely for it, and they should invest it back in the community. So the business of reinvesting in the community is not only the duty of a Muslim, but it is the requirement of the Holy Quran, the last word of God, unto each and every Muslim to invest back in the community. Now, if you don't invest it and save it and keep it for 40 years, it will go to zero. Why? Because every year you have to cut 2.5% of it, which is zakah. 2.5% of it, 2.5% of it, until the end of 40 years you have nothing. So the whole wisdom of the system is always to reinvest so you can generate economic activity. So in sum, there is no price for money except if it is invested. That is the system of la riba, or no riba. The system of riba, or conventional banking, says that yes, there is a price for money, and that is called interest. So we have two systems, and we're not trying to destroy one or take over the other. We're just trying to present an alternative to the conventional banking system, the conventional riba banking system, and that alternative we call la riba. And I'm very, very pleased to report that it is catching on, not only in the Muslim community, but in many, many non-Muslim communities. I'm very, very happy to tell you that there are non-Muslims who are actually clients of American Finance House La Riba, people of the Jewish faith, people of the Hindu faith, people of the Buddhist faith, and people of the Christian faith. And I had a chance to have a radio talk show in Champaign, Illinois, on the university campus in National Public Radio, and you'll be amazed how many citizens, non-Muslims, called in very pleased with the concept. Islamic banking is community banking. It's a concept where the assets of the community are taken and invested back in the community. They are saved and invested back in the community. Now, when you invest money in projects and services, if it's a good investment, it will return money on your investment, and that is expressed in percentages, and that percentage is the return on your investment. because you invested in a tangible asset, in an automobile, in a truck, in a business. That is the return on investing in the business. The concept of interest is a different concept, and it says that money has a price, and that price is interest. So you go to the friendly banker, conventional banker, and you tell that banker, I'd like to have $100,000 line of credit. The banker will ask you, oh, you are Mr. Smith or Mr. Kazi or Mr. Khan. Oh yeah, we know you. You're very successful. We'll give you $100,000. You can spend it any way you want. And by the way, the cost of this money is 10%. You know, it doesn't matter what you invested in. What matters is the cost of the money, which is 10%. Now, in the Islamic economics and finance system, we do not believe that money has a price, because money is nothing but a piece of paper. It's a tool. It's a measuring device which measures your economic success or failure. So if you got too much of it, then you have acquired it properly and legally, and it shows that you've been successful in what you're doing. But it is not a commodity that can be bought and sold for a price called interest. So what we say is that this money got to be invested in a tangible asset or a tangible service, and that asset or service would produce return or income or profitability, and that profitability is measured in terms of money. I'll give you an example. If you go and you want to buy a car from a riba banker in California and in Tennessee, we all know that the economy in California is quite prosperous, quite active, but the economy in Tennessee is quite slow. If you go to a conventional banker, the rent on the money is the same because it's defined by the Federal Reserve Board, 6% in California, 6% in Tennessee. And usually the price of the car is the same. So what you're doing really, you are unifying the rent on the money while it does not reflect the economic activity in California and in Tennessee. But if you go to a La Riba banker in California and in Tennessee, he or she do not look at the rent on the money, but on the actual lease rate that a car of this type, of this model, can command in the market, and the cost of operating this car in California and in Tennessee. And then the differential between the lease rate and the cost will give you a very nice return on investment. And because of this, money that belongs to the community in Tennessee will stay in Tennessee, not migrate to California to realize a better return. And when it stays in Tennessee, it produces better economic activity, prosperity, and more job opportunities. So when you go to a riba banker, all he or she think about is, I'm going to give you $100,000 for a home, and all I want is the rent on this money. When you go to a La Riba banker, the first question he or she will ask you about is, how much would the lease or the rental rate on a house similar to this house in the same neighborhood would bring you? Because then we look at buying a house, not just buying a house, but as a business that we invest our money in. If it makes good rate of return on investment, then we go ahead and invest with the customer, because we look at the customer as a joint investor that invests with me. And in the La Riba system or the no Riba system, we invest in our clients, and with our clients, we do not rent money to our clients. This is a movement for people of all faith and background. It happens that the Muslims identified it, and they have developed it since the 1970s, and here in America since 1987. But it is designed to attract all people of all faith and all ethnicities and backgrounds. My vision is to see a La Riba unit operating next to every Buddhist temple, every Hindu temple, every synagogue, every church, and every mosque or masjid in the United States first, and hopefully in North America, and hopefully in Europe, in Asia, and Africa. And this way we can have a movement. That movement does not negate the prevailing conventional banking system, but in fact it complements it. So we look at it as a complementary system that will provide an alternative for people to choose from. And I'm very, very pleased to report that many people of the Jewish faith and the Christian faith and the Buddhist and the Hindus are actually dealing with us and enjoying this kind of facility. The Prophet ﷺ has a very interesting incident. Sayyidina Bilal, the person from Ethiopia who used to call for the prayers, he knew that Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and praise be upon him, loved high quality dates. So one day he brought a few dates to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So he asked him, Bilal, where did you get these dates from? He said, Prophet Muhammad, I know that you love these dates. So what I did, I took a large number of small low quality dates and bartered it or exchanged it for these few high quality dates. The Prophet responded immediately and he said, this is exactly riba. And he said, why? Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, because you should have first found out the real value of these small dates. And he said, how? He said, by selling it for the currency used at that time, which can be silver or gold or whatever other currency. And then you take that silver and gold and you buy the larger quality dates. And this is a concept we call in Islamic economics, finance, and banking, marking the asset to the market. In other words, the dates, smaller dates, you go and test the market with it and know exactly how much it will command in that measuring device we call money. And you take that measuring device, which you call money, and buy the larger dates. This way you avoid participating in riba. And riba is not only interest, it is a process, it's a system which actually prices money. And money actually has no price, because money is a man-made commodity, and it's not even a commodity, it's just a measuring device. We finance it with a very unique system, which is based on sharing, on a joint venture with a declining equity. The whole idea is that American Finance House, La Riba, would say get in buying the house with an 80% down payment, and the person who wants to buy the house would go in with 20% down payment. Then they have like a joint ownership, 80-20. And the person who wants to live in the house would tell American Finance House, but you know, I don't want you to be my partner for the rest of my life. So American Finance, what do you want? So the person who wants to live in the house, I want to buy this house 100%. And I can give your money back, let us say, in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So suppose the house is $300,000, just to make the numbers work. So 80% of $300,000 is $240,000 put by American Finance House La Riba, and 20% of $300,000 is $60,000 put down by the home buyer. Home buyer will say, well, La Riba, I'm going to pay you $240,000 over 10 years. La Riba will say, fine, we will let you do this with no time value of money. And you divide $240,000 by 10, that means, Mr. Client, you will be paying $24,000 a year or $2,000 per month to return my capital back to me. We call that return of capital. Return, which is R, of C, which is capital. We call it ROFC, R-O-F-C. And then we tell to the client, we say, well, yeah, but then this property has a market value. Now, how do you measure the market value of this property? By marking it to the market. How do you mark a home to the market? By going out to the real estate agents and telling them, I would like to lease the same kind of property, same number of rooms, same specifications, same neighborhood for, say, 5 years. How much would that lease go for? And you get 3 estimates, Mr. Client, and American Finance House will do the same. As a matter of fact, American Finance House would call the real estate brokerage, put down the name, the agent, the time the call was made, and we accumulate 6 numbers, 6 estimates, from which we get a fair lease rate that's acceptable to the client and to American Finance House. And because in the first month the client owns 20% and American Finance House owns 80%, and suppose that the lease of this house, let us say $2,000 a month, then American Finance House share of that income is how much? 80% of 2,000, which is $1,600. And this is what we call the return on the capital invested by La Riba. Run C. R, which is return on, C, which is capital, run C. And then the monthly payment for the first month will be $2,000 rough C, the return of our capital back, plus the return on capital, which is $1,600, makes $3,600. Now, of course, as the client pays on a monthly basis back to La Riba, his or her ownership goes from 20% to 25 to 30 to 50 to 70 to 100%, and the distribution of the part of the lease, of course, changes. And we have a computer program which we call Islamabad 4. We have 4 generations of it. The reason we call it Islamabad is we developed it with a very well-known Islamic scholar in this field when we were financing the house of his cousin here in the United States. And we kept developing it, and we have now Islamabad number 4. And we get now the monthly payments to be straight line, to be the same, and we go into the ownership decline by American Finance House and increase by the client until it is paid off. Now, this is the first part, which we call the Islamic legal foundation. Now then we have to cross the bridge, which makes you also legally viable according to the laws of the land, because we are here not only to apply the Islamic law, but also to apply the laws of the United States of America. And to do this, we take all of these cash flow figures and put them in a traditional mortgage program. And we come up with what they call an implied interest rate. Why? Because there is a regulation in the United States banking and finance laws called Regulation Z, like zebra, which is called the Truth in Lending Law, which should divulge in full transparency what this means in terms of the system used in the United States, and that's interest. So we have an implied interest rate disclosed to the client and well known to the client to make sure that the client can compare and to make sure that we are fair to the client. The second thing is the last thing left to the American consumer to deduct from his or her taxes is the mortgage payment. So we put down all the paperwork that will make that implied interest satisfy the requirements of the tax laws to make it an actual interest, and the client can benefit from his or her payments in terms of mortgages. And we do exactly the opposite of what the riba conventional banker does. The riba conventional banker, you remember, he wanted to know how much is the monthly payment. But based on our lease, the riba banker knows already the monthly payment for the house. He puts it in the computer program, he puts in the amount of the financing, the number of years, and the unknown here is another percentage sign. It is not the interest rate as the riba banker puts it, but it is the actual rate of return on the investment that you would invest in this house. And that number is very important because it will tell you if this house or this car makes economic sense to buy or not. If it is 12%, that means it's a good return because the investors that are investing in La Riba would probably expect 6%. So we say, Mr. Client, go ahead and buy the property. And by the way, we do not want you to suffer because you want to apply the socially responsible La Riba model. We're going to unilaterally reduce the rent so we can make it commensurate with what the investors expect and competitive with what the other riba bankers and mortgage companies do. And everything goes well. But then the other possibility is that the rate of return on investment can come out to be 1%, which conceptually means that it is better for you, Mr. Client, to rent now and not to participate in an inflationary bubble that is suffering in this neighborhood because it is better to wait. And Mr. Client, we cannot finance this property. And many clients come to us very upset, very disappointed. Say, how can you deny me? All these banks are giving me because I am very well employed, I have a very good salary, and so on and so forth. We say, Mr. Client, we are not in the business of renting money like riba bankers do. We are in the business of investing in meaningful activities like buying a home that makes sense and a car that makes sense. So this way we can get the spirit of what the prophets of God, all of them, including Prophet Muhammad, have brought in, and that is money is a measuring device. When you embark on an economic activity, then it has to make economic sense. Not only this, but there is a third possibility, that you get a rate of return on investment that probably is, say, 5.5%, while your investors are expecting 6%. So we go to the client and say, Mr. Client, we think that you can go and renegotiate the price of the house or the car so you can get the 6% that is prevailing in the market. And indeed, we have done that in many parts of the United States. Net, the riba banker saves the home buyers, the automobile buyers, the equipment buyers, the business buyers from committing themselves into an activity that doesn't make economic sense in light of the market. And this is the concept we call marking to the market. That is, always marking any activity you have to what the market can command in rate of return on investment, not in terms of the price of money or the rent on money, that is interest. And it's interesting also to note that some people say, oh, we're going to take interest as an index, as a measuring device of the rent. And we tell them, no, we are out to disengage people's thinking in terms of riba or interest. We want people to think in terms of the economic viability of every activity they embark on. And then the rest will be realized by the support and the blessings of Almighty God. In my view, the biggest achievement was the agreement that La Riba has signed with Freddie Mac, which is an organization started by the United States Congress in 1971. Now it is a public corporation. And also Fannie Mae, which is one of the oldest home financing and mortgage corporations. Both of these organizations provide liquidity in the market. They have recognized our model, which I think this is a first in the history of riba-free banking in the world. And it made us, American Finance House La Riba, the largest riba-free mortgage originator, not only in the United States, but also in the world. And we're very honored and delighted by it. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are looked upon as other investors. So if you come to me and say, well, I'd like to invest $20,000 in your company, first question you will ask me as a La Riba is, how much is the expected rate of return? And we know what your expectations are, and we design our portfolio of investments such that we get this expected rate of return. We don't guarantee it. It's only in the hands of Almighty God. And that's exactly how our relationship is with Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. We look at them as investors. We go to them online, house by house, and we give them the parameters, and we get their consent on house-by-house basis. We do not borrow from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or any other institution. And we're very thankful for this, because through Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, we have tremendous liquidity support that could allow us to finance as many homes as we want every month, and the liquidity that provide us with the popularization of the concept of riba-free banking and financing. The interesting thing is also that we had a chance to borrow money 15 years ago when we started in 1987, but we refused it. We refuse it when we're small, we're refusing it when we are large, and we're not going to participate in interest, taking interest from somebody and paying interest to somebody and going out on the other side and saying, well, I'm doing interest-free or riba-free transaction. That will be the ultimate in hypocrisy, and I don't think it's not going to be only punishable in this world, but it will be the most grievous punishment on the day in the hereafter, Yawm al-Qiyamah. The American Finance House is the only finance company in the United States that provides a la riba model for all sorts of financial needs of the community. First, what we call the average American family dream, and that is an automobile and a home. And we'll put it, the average American Muslim family dream is an automobile and a home that are financed according to the jurisprudence or the laws of Islam. And then we also do business financing, we do construction financing, they do equipment financing. American Finance House has done at least so far 4 large dialysis units serving 40 to 60 clients at a time. Again, community members being served, and when they are served, then they become more affluent, then they generate job opportunities for the community, then they are more affluent to finance a lot of the voluntary activities in the community like centers, churches, or what the community needs, and so on and so forth. This way the community becomes affluent and more effective. My vision of all of this is that the community at large will catch on. You start first with what I call the Puritans, the people that have been living in homes, in rented homes, in apartments for the last 20 years because they do not want to get into riba. Community members that have accumulated 80% of a home price, believe it or not, and they're still sitting in apartments because they don't want to participate in riba. And when you offer them this service, they come on the surface, they show up, they come out of the closets. And we're impressed, we are fascinated, we are honored that we can fulfill their needs. And we're honored that they have held tight to their beliefs all these years. Now you start with the Puritans, and then when the word comes out, then the average community member will come and say, hey, you know, you people really serve the community. You people want to know us. You people are the people who care about us, would love to deal with you. It's not a matter of interest on money only. It's a matter of how you deal with us. I'm very, very pleased to report that not only Muslims have been excited about it, but people of the Christian faith, people of the Jewish faith, people of the Buddhist and the Hindu faith. And when I appear on radio shows, a lot of calls come in from people who are very excited about the concept of not looking at money as a measure, not looking at money as a commodity to be rented, but looking at it as a measuring device and a tool to evaluate economic activity. You know, we have never advertised in any newspaper, in any magazine. We have our website, and that website is visited every day by at least 200 visitors. No advertising. In 1 year, we've had over 70,000 visitors, and unbelievable the response. Every morning we walk in here and we get tens of emails, tens of applications for financing. We're very thankful for this response from the community because we really believe in the community. I learned from my business experience that the best advertisement is a word of mouth. And you'll be amazed. We are known, American Finance House, La Riba, we call it La Riba, is known everywhere in the world. We got the biggest name brand recognition in Islamic banking throughout the world. Every corner in the world, we get feedback and we get emails. As a matter of fact, the quality of our visitors is much better than the quality of other sites that are visited by 20 million a year and 30 million a year. Why? Because we are a specialized house and we have a very recognized name as serious, innovative, high quality, transparent, American regulated finance company, which means that if you play games with any misrepresentation, not only that God will be punishing you in the hereafter, but you will be punished in this life by the American laws, which are very strict about the financial rules and regulations. The real goal is the popularization of the concept. Now, the popularization of the concept can come from different directions. One, the obvious direction is advertising. In my humble view, advertising doesn't get you anywhere. But what I do when I'm invited to a community to speak about Islamic banking, I want to make sure that the first lecture on Islamic banking is done in an academic setting in the university. So I insist that the community find a professor at the university in the city I visit to invite me to the business school to talk about Islamic banking. Why? Because I hope that one or two professors will capture the idea, that I will capture their imagination. Then they will start introducing the students to it. Then they will start getting the minds of the people at a young age prepared to accept the concept. So that's the first thing. The second thing is through conferences, where you invite not only Muslim scholars but non-Muslim scholars. Like this year, 2001, we're having non-Muslims come and speak about Islamic banks. Are they less risky or more risky? And the fascinating thing that Moody's, which is a very well-known rating agency of financial institutions and companies and so on, Andrew Cunningham did a study in which he has proven that riba banks are less risky than conventional banks. Fascinating, fascinating. So we would like to invite others to come in and listen to these findings. And this way they can conclude that yes, this is an alternative system and it's not so crazy an idea. And then the third thing is the community itself. Community that we need to educate. So community at large, be it students, and we're encouraging students to come to these seminars, encouraging everybody to come to these seminars, because we're trying to popularize the concept. And popularization of a concept is not done through advertising. Advertising is to build an image. We're not here in image building. We are here to serve Almighty God. And if you're sincere about serving God, if this comes out of your heart, I promise you it will go if you put it in the right place. If you plant and sow the seed in the right place, and that is at the grassroots level in the community. One community at a time. It's tedious. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. But its results are permanent and for a long number of years to come by God's grace. I am trained as an engineer, as a chemical petroleum engineer. And in 1971, I finished my PhD from Madison, Wisconsin, went to Dallas, Texas. There was not a single Jummah, Friday prayer, established in Dallas, Texas. Not a single one. And everybody said, you know, we're afraid that we'll be discriminated against and so on. 2 people prayed Jummah for the first time, end of November 1971. And then we started building the community slowly. And then we said, we need to have a center in a place called Grand Prairie in Texas, very close, in between Dallas and Arlington, on Baghdad Street. And we needed, I think, $17,000. So we said, we'll go and borrow money. And then an argument erupted. This is riba. And I really said, I know nothing about this stuff. So anyway, I went to school, University of Texas at Dallas, did an MBA, International Finance. It's actually MA in Management and International Finance at the University of Texas at Dallas. And I learned how money is created, what's interest, what's the cost of money, how the system works, and so on and so forth. And by mere coincidence, in 1987, I met one of the top Islamic bankers in the world. And through him, I started meeting all the scholars in Islamic banking, and I advocated my life to Islamic banking since then. Actually, I wrote a book on the subject. I did most of the research done. I did research on my own. We presented papers at the University of Harvard Islamic Banking Forum. We started American Finance House Symposia, and so on and so forth. We wanted that the capital for this company, when we started, should come from the American Muslim community. And the fascinating thing is, we went to the rich and famous, and they said, no, we do not want to participate, because we made our name. We don't want anybody to say that we're taking advantage of the community. We understand that. But we were surprised, frankly, because we thought that people that are so affluent would be the first to come and invest. But we understood what it means. The people who really invested in this company in the beginning, and we raised $100,000, $200,000, were the middle class Muslim community members that wanted to see riba removed. And they said, we'll put in $10,000, we don't even worry if we lose the money. And that's how the whole system started in 1987. It was Ramadan 1987, which happened to be July, right before the crash of the market. And we're very delighted that since we started until today, 14 years later, not a single quarter passed without producing profits. And our policy has been consistently to compete with the conventional banks' certificate of deposit rates. Because if you really are good and serious about investing, you should never hide behind saying, oh, it's Islamic, brother. You got to be paid less. No, no. You got to be paid better returns than what the conventional banks do. Why? Because we're competing with them. And number two, because in our startup operation, it is, by definition, a higher risk operation. We told people in our community that we have to know you in order to be able to invest with us. And we're asking you to invest only 5% to 10% of your assets, not to put all of your eggs in one basket. And we've been very blessed and very successful. This is a business which is a volume business. So as we grew and became better, we are very competitive as far as return on capital and return on investment. And we're very delighted with the results.